And my initial reaction is they did everything you want to see from them, right? I mean, Anthony, even you would know the D line was more disruptive. I thought they were getting the backfield. I thought there's penetration there. I thought there was a little pressure on Russell Wilson, forcing him into quick throws. It seemed like Sean Payton was really even worried about the pass rush with all those screens he was running. So it was an interesting game to watch. And then Justin Fields looked totally in control. All the stats say it. But at the end, Pat, at the end, like you need players. You need 4 or 6 plays to put that game away to win it, and you just can't make the mistakes they made at the end. If we just talk about what happened, what we saw going into the game, should you fire Eberflus? Should Fields get benched? I think you got your answers to those questions. I think they played for Flus. I think Fields showed enough improvement.
Yeah, but, I guess watching this game, man, I was like, wait, we're not the worst team in the NFL, when it was going the way it was going. And then the next thing you know, the defense kind of rears its ugly head of not being able to get off the field on third down late in the game, and Russell Wilson does his thing. But to me, it's that do you kick the field goal or not on 4th and 1? And to me, if you're Matt Eberflus, and that's your defense, you kick the field goal, you take the points, and you say, okay, come get it. Those are my guys out there. We're going to win this game that way. I think that's a big decision. I think he made the wrong decision there, in my opinion. Just kind of shocked he did it, and how he did it, of having those guys out there on 4th and 1, then calling timeout, and then going back out there. I don't know if he was trying to set up to see what they were going to run on defense, but I think you have to have conviction in that point. Take the field goal. Our defense is going to win the game today, and then you walk away a winner. But then the Bears did what they did, and unfortunately it turned out the way it was.
Hey guys, there's been, because people tend to pay attention to the player aspect of it, of like how the players are developing, how young guys are coming along, and especially Justin Fields for obvious reasons. And I've tried to remind folks, you also have a first-time play caller in Luke Getsy, and him seeming like he's got some developing to do there. And you have what I found to be the best game as a play caller that I've seen from Luke Getsy as the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. And, big surprise, it's coupled with the best game of Justin Fields' career as a Bears quarterback. I honestly hadn't really gotten to the point of really questioning the maturity, is I guess the term I would use, of Matt Eberflus, the Bears head coach. I had no problem with him not going for the initial 4th down. I tagged you in something on Twitter, Patrick, just kind of joking around about it.
Mm-hmm.
That final decision, I'm baffled by passing on the opportunity to take the lead late 4th quarter at home, and you've got one of the most reliable kickers right now in football in Cairo Santos. But let's go back to you real quick, Patrick, because you were alluding to that decision, and I'm shocked. Matt Eberflus, to me, hadn't been that guy to make what I thought was a pretty terrible decision like that.
Yeah, I want to see his reaction, his response, to see why he did that. I would love to know why they went out there and then called timeout. I really want to know what he was thinking. I just, being aggressive or whatever, hey, man, great. How about just winning the game? Make the right call to win the game. Give your team a chance to win the game. So, maybe during this post game we'll hear some sound, or we'll find something on Twitter or whatever, what he has to say about that breakdown. But I just think he made a terrible coaching decision. And Olin, we've talked about in the pregame show, and everybody's being evaluated, and that's a big evaluation point for Eberflus with Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles and that organization. That people say, okay, he's a defensive coach, but he wanted to be a CEO when Alan Williams was here. But now Alan Williams is gone; he's a defensive coordinator, but he's still the CEO of the team. He's making the game time decisions, and I think he botched that one.
Yeah, I mean, I really honestly couldn't disagree with you guys more. Here's where I will agree. I think, remember when John Harbaugh went to Lamar Jackson, he said, do you want to go for it? What play do you want to run? You guys remember that game. That's what I thought he should have done. I thought he should have went to Justin Fields and asked him, because, look, you're 0-3. The biggest question is this guy our quarterback? I'm going to walk up to Justin Fields. I seen Justin Fields walk to the sideline and talk to Getsy about, and I'd like to know what he was saying at that point. I'd like to know what play he was asking for, because the problem I had was with sending Herbert right up the middle without an option of a quarterback read or Justin Fields on the run or Justin Fields moving around there outside the pocket. I didn't mind them going for it there. I just think at some point I was the thing that confused me is Big Ant talked about the first 4th and 1. What confuses me is if you go into the game with that attitude, then that's just your attitude, right? If we're going to punt on 4th and 1, then we will kick that field goal. For me, you should have been going from the beginning and then I'm going to set a tempo as a head coach, like Coach Harbaugh did with Lamar Jackson, and I'm going to walk up to my young quarterback and say, do you want to go for it here? Okay, what play do you want to run? And then I'm gonna tap him on his helmet and say, go get it, young man.
And go ahead, Patrick.
No, that makes sense. I mean, if that's a different mentality, right? So I think Eberflus just has a little different mentality of what he's doing. You brought up the first 4th and 1. Yeah, if you're going to do that, then kick the field. Like, just whatever your philosophy is or your mentality is, stick with it. And I agree with that as well, Olin. But you have to give, I think Matt Ryan said it. You have to give him an opportunity to make the play. Justin Fields, he's the best player out there for the Chicago Bears.
I think it seems to me that you get, sticking with the 4th down thought, I think getting into the flow of the game as a coach, I can come in with one idea for we want to be, quote unquote, aggressive in certain situations in game, but you also have these first 3 games of information coming in. So that first one, all right, 4th and kind of a long 2. Do we go for it? Do we not? Minus territory, near midfield, but minus territory. I didn't mind him punting that ball, hoping to pin the opponent down on the first defensive drive, because your defense has been getting gashed all season too. I think that in the flow of the game, once you see we are rolling, our offense is getting it done, it's the best game we've had all season, then that's where I feel like it gets a little more, I guess, a little easier as a play caller, decision maker to say, yeah, I got faith we can make it. We don't necessarily need that punt and pin kind of mentality, because our offense is actually getting some things done here. It just seemed to me like on that last one, I agree. I didn't like the play call either, but it was a chance when Denver had become the team. We overused the term momentum, but they were certainly the team who was rising at that point in the game. They had everything going in their favor. Still got a chance to put Santos on the field and at least take a lead there to kind of salvage something in that moment in the game. So there's so much to be questioned about how certainly the 4th quarter, how some of these decisions end up playing out in game. And part of what I was thinking about in game, guys, was just even the frustration I started to have, thinking like 3 games in, and we're finally, now the 4th game, and we're finally getting to the point where it seems like Luke Getsy is using the full arsenal of Justin Fields. And I know all 3 of us have talked about it with his last season, this season, calling him into movement, getting him on the go, changing the launch point over and over again. And I was trying to remind myself, if we get to postgame and the Bears have won, not to be Mr. Negative about that. Like, why did it take this long to get to this point? But since they blew the game and they lost, I feel okay about being, a little more Mr. Negative about that. The Bears offense and the way the quarterback was utilized, though, what stood out to you about that?
Yeah, I liked it, but a lot of me was I was liking what Matt Ryan was talking about. I just want him a little bit more in this zone read, looking at the defense, the wide receivers spread out, spread the field. I thought they were squeezing too much formations. I thought they were running out of a lot of with their fullback in the game, with 2 tight ends in the game. I want to see them spread a little bit more for Justin Fields, almost run a triple option type offense in the spread, which is the spread offense, right? So even though it was working and the crosses are working and Cole Kmet coming across the field and Denver didn't look like they knew who to cover, still, when Matt Ryan kept saying that, it was hitting that quarterman. I actually wrote in my notes, will they pay for this, right? And obviously they end up paying for it, and you want Justin just to take the sack there. A couple of mental mistakes by Justin at the end, right? Take the sack, with the intentional grounding. That's just that'll lose you the game. I thought him and Cole Kmet were the communication, Pat. I thought on a 3rd down, Cole Kmet's got to fight across that DB's face there and make that catch there late in the game, and then he sits it down when he's got to, again, fight across the DB's face. Look, you're not Travis Kelce and Mahomes. You can't freelance out there. If you're supposed to be across the safety's face or the linebacker, you've got to get across his face, right? So as much as the game plan was good today, rolling them out, booting them, it still was, guys, like at some point, Pat, I was like, why are they under center just handing off straight dives, right? Why not give Justin Fields a read there? Why not get him outside the pocket, get him on the edge? Some of that stuff, you're playing against the worst defense in the league, but you have to work on things like you got the Commanders coming up. Like, is those straight dives going to work against the Commanders' front 4? I don't think so.
No, but I thought Getsy did call a better game plan, but we always talk about going back and what the all 22, is how bad is this Denver Broncos really? You know what I mean? How many times the guys were running into each other, blowing coverages, getting, I got to give the credit to the O-line blocking so well for Khalil Herbert, but how much is this the Denver Broncos collapsing, or was it Justin Fields taking that step and Luke Getsy kind of figuring some things out? So I think that's the big question here. I think early we thought it was just Denver was that bad, but then they kind of figured some things out and were able to hold them a little bit. But I do want to see that tape to really get a true evaluation. Was this the offensive step game? Did they get better?
Mm-hmm. 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 Definitely. Clips. I thought they definitely got better, Big Ant. I thought they definitely got better today. I thought they played better football.
Yeah.
It's a Great Clips post-game show presented by Tullamore Dew. And just to stick with that topic, because the reaction, I would imagine it because of the way the game tilted late in the way that it did. I retweeted, some of the writers like, all right, we might have a laugher going at Soldier Field. The Bears are rolling. All right, here's Justin Fields' stats. They're up by 21 points. Man, this is great. This is fun. Everybody's got a smile on their face. And then it shifted so much. And so there's so much that's worthy of question here with the result of the game. What do you think when we hear from Matt Eberflus? So specifically, the in-game decision will be something he'll 100% be asked about. But just the tone, now 0-4, but a performance that shows growth. And so 0-4 are nowhere near the results anyone hopes for, but where his message is about fundamentals, getting better every day, improving. What do you anticipate for the message that Matt Eberflus ends up bringing to the podium afterwards, just for where the 0-4 team ends up sitting right now?
Well, I think he's going to talk about the way they improved. Sorry, Pat. I think he's going to talk about the way they improved and they were in that game and offense did well. But I think he will talk about also on that 4th-and-1 decision, having his secondary depleted, right? And then putting them back on the field versus Russell Wilson and all those wide receivers, right? Got Terrell Smith out there covering, which I'll be honest with you guys, they did a lot better job than I thought they would. They competed against those guys all day long. Like we talked about, that D-line got a little bit of pressure. I did like when they had some timely blitzes there by Brisker. Brisker came out there and they were getting Russell Wilson off his spot at least, but I don't know how that does not play into your decision that you got 3 or 4 backup cornerbacks on the field and it's 4th-and-1, and can we get this?
I think that's what's fun about coaching, Olin. Like, I have a different philosophy. I would have taken the lead and said, all right, let's see what we can do. You've done okay-ish throughout the game until the end. And I think that's what's fun about, what we get to do here is talk about, breaking down the decisions and whatnot, and coaches have different ideas of what they would do to win or lose a game and how they're going to do it. But I see your point there about the defensive backs. But again, I would, and me personally, if I'm on the opposite of you, Olin, and we're playing against each other, I'm kicking the field goal and just kind of, I guess I'm crossing my fingers and hoping the defense can win. But that's what's fun about it. You get to make these decisions, and what the fun part is, we're not paid to make those decisions. We're paid to talk about it.
Yeah, but like us three right here, the interesting thing for whoever's watching this is what's going on the sideline, right? This is the think tank.
Yes.
Right? You're getting all those opinions, right? And it ends with Eberflus, but you're getting all these opinions from everybody, and this is how your coaching staff should be. Because if you agree with the guy, I don't need you here. If you agree with me every time, I don't need you on the field. But it goes to the point of, you guys talked about how Eberflus wanted to be a CEO. Alan Williams he's his most trusted confidant, right? He was his most trusted guy there on the sideline, and now he's not there anymore. So it just goes to this whole thing of, like we're saying, hey, man, I'm on the headset saying, hey, Pat, man, listen here. I'd go for this. Go ask Justin what he wants to run. And we're going through all these scenarios and what is best for our football team, man. And you're right. Like you shouldn't all agree out there, but it's an interesting look for whoever's watching this of what was actually going on that sideline.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, before they got to that actual 4th down call, when they went out there and initially went with the dummy cadence, and they showed a sideline shot where Eberflus was talking to Luke Getsy, and that was the first indication I kind of had where I'm like, oh, he might actually go for this. It really didn't cross my mind that he was legitimately going to go for it until seeing him and Luke Getsy standing next to each other on the sideline, having like a legit combo. You could tell that, and they both got headsets on. They're standing right next to each other, but their mouths are covered. Eberflus is leaning over towards Getty a little bit. Luke is responding, and they kind of kept the shot on them together for a few moments. It's like, oh, he's talking to his OC right now. Like, he's giving this real thought, man. And, I mean, Twitter is what Twitter's going to be, or X or whatever now. But, to have the folks who early on, like, oh, well, you got to go for that fourth down, like Olin's doing right now. You keep that same energy regardless, whether you make it or miss it, because I feel like our reaction ends up being results-based. If the decision doesn't work, it was a bad call. If the decision does work, then it was a good call. And the coaches don't have that advantage. They can't predict for sure how something's going to play out. They have to make these educated guesses. And that back and forth, that dialogue with Luke Getty there, it did look like, yeah, man, they're really thinking about this. And he went for it. And I did feel like, Olin, that the O-line, especially in the fourth quarter, Khalil Herbert was running through contact. The O-line was beginning to really gain some momentum, not just via some of the misdirection stuff and outflanking the defense, but they were starting to move guys in the second half of the game in a way that I feel like even with some of the success early, that the O-line wasn't necessarily moving Denver off the ball like they started to in the fourth. What were your impressions about that run game and how it progressed?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, man. I think that they were moving guys off the ball. You can see why in this game, even though, the Denver's D-line is not great, you can see why they gave Nate Davis that money. He's a very, very good run blocker. You pair him with Darnell Wright and Mercedes Lewis. And that's a very formidable side of the line if you want to run the ball downhill. And I tweeted out late in the game that Herbert is like one-arm tackle and keeping his feet from going to the house, man. He is. And they talked about how the Bears were saying that. And, Pat, we talked about in the pregame show how you could see that on film, how you could see that Herbert is like one tackle away from going to the house, and they're talking about challenging him. But, yes, offensive line actually gelled a little bit today, and you can see, I'm sure Ryan Poles is thinking, man, we're catching all this flack. But you can see their plan if Tevin Jenkins comes back healthy and he can stay healthy and they can get Braxton Jones back and put Cody Whitehair back at center. Although, I got to be honest, Lucas Patrick has played pretty good there in the middle today. He played pretty good. Even last week, I thought he was going to be a little bit of a prick out there, which I like. You set a tempo, you push guys after the play, right? I remember Chris Jones punched him in the face because he was pushing Chris after the play. Now, sometimes you let sleeping bears lie, but you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to go after guys and try to get guys and try to set a tempo, set a tone. So to your point, yes, they were running the ball. Darnell Wright, too bad, playing a good game, too bad. The holding call, keep your hands inside, and then just a bad angle on that last play. Just, that linebacker was a little more over with the angle he took and shot that hole. But you don't know until you see that in NFL. We've all been through that. You don't know until you see an NFL linebacker shoot the A-gap on 4th and 1. You just don't know. So these Bears are growing, and hopefully they can grow from this game. But being 0-4, man, Pat, it just sucks.
Oh, it sucks. And what's 14 straight now? Olin, I think I've seen a few of those no-look pushes. Isn't that how you would do it? Like when you're walking off the pile? You're not looking at the D lineman, but you're getting up off of them. Or you just push
you're trying to bug them a little bit, right? And then I remember doing something like that to John Randall, and the guards are like, Olin, knock it off. Like, you don't got to block them on 3rd down. And I was like, that is true, right? Like when you get in Warren Sapp's face, your guards are like, knock it off. Don't piss off Warren Sapp. He's coming after me next.
And another thing I like here, Big Ant Mo, is that they ran the ball 31 times. We talked about it in the pregame that, that's something they can do against this team, and they rushed for, 171 yards. I think one of those rushes you didn't like, Olin, was Cole Kmet with the quarterback sneak again, who almost dropped the ball when he's taking the snap from Lucas Patrick, which is –
Getsy's got some stubbornness in him, doesn't he? He's got some stubbornness in him. Yeah. Getsy does, yes.
But I think they learned something there that, like you talked about the gelling of this offensive line. This could be a strength for them going forward. They can ball control a little bit more, and Khalil Herbert's running hard, man. He's running really hard.
No doubt is. Just a couple of stats from the game itself as you're starting to talk about a little bit there, Patrick. Justin Fields, 28 out of 35, 335 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 crucial, decisive, game-ending interception. And I want to come back to that interception in a moment, as you guys were kind of addressing it a little while ago. Khalil Herbert with a 100-yard rushing game, 18 carries, 103 yards, and just seemed like, an eyelash away from some even bigger chunk runs to talk about. Second 100-yard receiving game of the season for DJ Moore, 8 receptions, 131 yards, 9 targets overall. And Moore had that initial touchdown, which to me, hand up. I thought they got the call right. I thought, DJ Moore on that first touchdown grab, he had the left foot down and the right foot kicked over that front pylon. I thought that was enough. So maybe I'm in the minority at this point. I don't know. People still seem to think that, and Gene Steratore came on even during the game, their rules analyst, and said he thought the officials blew the call. I thought kicking over the pylon, you got one foot in, you kick it over with the other one. I thought it was pretty much cut and dry at that point, but apparently not. One thing that stood out to me with Justin Fields, Patrick, was I felt like his eyes, for a guy who, it's one thing to be able to read the field and to see what you're looking at, but I did think that Justin Fields actually, just as a reader of the field and having that command, his eye discipline and eye manipulation of the defense, especially on some of those touchdown passes, I thought was the best that I've seen his eyes look at any point so far in his career, where you could tell he was trying to move coverage on that first touchdown pass to Moore, on the first touchdown pass to Kmet. You see the best quarterbacks in the business do that, where they'll move the safety with their eyes, setting up some matchups for the playmakers, and I thought Fields did that well today.
And I also thought they simplified it for him, too, with getting him out of the pocket. Maybe just 1 to 2 was his read instead of kind of see the whole field. The more half-fields reads. But it's his best game as a Bear, obviously, and I just thought he's learning on the as he's going along as well. The touchdown throw he had to Kmet, where he kind of ran down the line like Patrick Mahomes does, and waited and used his legs to get everybody bought up to come to him and then dump that off. That to me that's a step in quarterbacking, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Understanding that position. But yeah, he looked a lot better, and I think they helped him too with his reads, where he just didn't have to stand in the pocket and read 1 to 2 to 3 to check down and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you knew he was seeing the field, Big Ant. You remember when they had the early snap? I think it was in the third quarter. It was 3rd and 9. The early snap, and the DN was just coming free because Borum didn't expect the snap, and he still dealt it to DJ Moore, and it was a strike, man. With a guy right in his face. So, like you're saying, Big Ant, probably his best game as a quarterback. Through is just the critical mental mistakes that kind of get you there at the end, right? Which makes you wonder about, man, we got to make those plays at the end of the game, because even in a game where he's seeing the field, even a game where, like you're saying, he's moving his safeties, he's dealing the ball, he's feeling the pressure. There was the play down there by the end zone where he boots out and makes a defensive end look silly there and finds Herbert there on like a little boot play. I mean, this guy is dynamic, like we all know. It's just you'd like to see him on that, that boot, give up 6 with the fumble, the touchdown. You just like to see him take that sack, right? You'd like to see him not take that intentional grounding, make the play at the end of the game. It's just those errors that kind of get you after a game that, like you're talking about, boy, did he play the quarterback position well.
He did.
And getting to that point where Luke Getsy and Justin Fields, where it seems like there's progress between quarterback and play caller, but still coming out with the loss. I think that could be a difficult position for a locker room to be in at 0-4, where Denver, I doubt Sean Payton goes into the locker room telling the guys how great they played, but you got a Super Bowl champion quarterback, you got a coach who's won at a high level as well. And so they can come out here with their first win feeling like there's something to build off of. But on the whole, the Bears outplayed Denver and still found a way to lose this game. We talked about Eberflus and the sort of public message that may be there. How do you think that sits in the locker room with as tumultuous as it feels like things have been at Halas Hall in recent weeks, and players, Chase Claypool doesn't dress for the game. He's talking about he doesn't have any faith in the way he's being utilized. That message for Eberflus to his locker room after another loss. How do you see him balancing that? Where we played better, we did good things, but you don't have now that tangible evidence to say it led to a win, and that could begin to get more difficult.
It's going to get really difficult because you need to win. Like, winning fixes a lot of things. I was thinking about while they were winning the game there, late in the game, I was like, it's going to be, I was counting my chickens before they hatched, to be honest with you guys. I was thinking, oh, man, it's so good for them. They will get to win a game. It's going to be nice there on Monday morning. The offense played well. The defense played better than you thought they would. They finally got a win here. Now everybody's a little more coachable. You could even see them on the sideline for the first time ever looking at each other, looking at the coach's eyes when they're scoring those touchdowns and nodding their head. And it's like you said, Big Ant, it's a great word. It's just when you win, it's tangible, right? You can feel the win. Okay, what this coach is saying actually does work, right, Pat? So that is something that he's going to have to fight against and find a way to get his message across. And it's always harder after a loss.
100%. And Olin, winning, it's easier to learn after a win, right? Even if you have a bad win, you know what I mean? Even if you have a bad game, it just feels easier to take criticism. It feels easier to go to that building and want to get better. And it's just unfortunate that they didn't come out on top. And it is going to be hard for him right now to continue selling that message. When you've got 14 losses in a row, there's a lot of guys that have been there hearing that same message over and over. Those Monday morning meetings are probably going to sound similar. Those Wednesday morning team meetings when you're game planning, all sounding similar, but they're all the same result as well, which is bad. So that's really hard to sell for those guys in that locker room.
The Soldier Field was rocking. I mean, even just on TV and even the announcers, we're talking about it a little bit between, Matt Ryan referenced it a couple times. Tiki Barber was talking about it. Just all three announcers were saying just how loud this building is. We'll take a time out in a moment. When we come back around to this, the temperature in the city for Bears fans, I'm pretty intrigued by that aspect of it because I wonder a little bit how much that impacts some of what we see in game, like being booed. We heard Jaquan Brisker talk about it on this station earlier in the season. And I don't know. I wonder if Matt Eberflus, if he's impacted by that at all, or if, to your point, Olin, if it is just, my DBs are young and their offense is starting to cook us a little bit, so we just got to be aggressive here with this final fourth down. But the temperature of the city just wanting greatness in this game where you're finally starting to get some signs of that still don't end up playing out to the Bears' advantage.